Assalamu alaikum. How are you? You are studying for a certain purpose, obviously, and the purpose is to do some business or to get some job. So, when you have completed your education or you are about to complete your education, you are faced with a new situation, and that situation is to hunt for some job. So, you have to start a new sort of communication, and that is the job search communication. There used to be a time when it was as easy as anything. For example, every educated person knew how to write a job letter like this. I have come to know through reliable sources that a post of so-and-so is lying under your kind control and so-and-so, and then followed a story. I'm a poor man and so-and-so. But nowadays, the concept of writing application is completely changed. When you are completing your education, you know very well that what are you going to do after completing your education. You start planning about your career, about your future. You have a very clear mind that what are you going to do when you have completed your education. So, after making up your mind about your profession of your choice, you look for the industry or you look for the organization where you are going to apply. And then you start writing about yourself, that is your resumes, your CVs or anything, to those organization or to that industry or to that field. And then you appear in interviews, and then you write follow-up letter, acceptance letter, etc. So if we look at this job search communication, we will find it a process, like the process of communication. It has certain components. For example, the first component is planning your career. What do you be in your professional life? The second thing is writing resume. What is a resume? We are going to discuss today on this topic, so we put it off. Then comes the next component, and that is writing cover letter. Then comes another steps, and that is understanding the process of interview. Then comes the next one, and that is understanding interview. Then comes the next, preparing interview, participating in the interview, and the last, follow-up letters, acceptance letter. So if you look at this job search communication, it got a lot of components, and this is a very important phase of your life, and you have to be very particular about this job search communication. We have a lot of options out there in the market, and we have to narrow down all these options very wisely so that we could have the profession of our own choice. As I just said that there used to be a time when writing for any job was very simple. The letter that used to be written was well known or well learned or well crammed, and you would start like this, I have come to know through reliable source. Later on there was a bit change in it, but if we look at now at this type of communication or these messages that now we write in this process, we find it completely changed. It is changed for certain reasons, and the most important reason is that we have to understand today's changing environment, today's changing workplace. Today, the workplace is completely changed compared to 30-40 years ago. There are numerous factors for this change, not one single factor, numerous factors. Certain changes have taken place in you, in the employer, and in the whole environment. So it's very important that you must understand what are these changes. For example, in the first lecture and throughout these lectures, we've been discussing certain aspects, certain changes that have taken place on the workplace. For example, we have talked about globalization, we have talked about informational technology, we have talked about certain aspect of organization, how downsizing is taking place. I mean, you must have studied what is downsizing in the other subject like management. So, diversity has taken place on the workplace. We discussed a lot when we were discussing intercultural communication. We discuss about diversity. Nowadays, there are team-based organizations. There is corporate downsizing, cost-cutting initiatives, growing dependency on flexible employment, and people look at the employment in a different way than they used to look in the past. So if we look at the present scenario, we'll find that a lot of change has taken place on the workplace. And I've just named a few changes that have taken place. So when you are going to plan your career, you need to understand all these factors, because these factors are going to mold your career. You are going to the organization which are influenced by all these factors. Today, all we know, we are having a paperless revolution. We are having downsizing and many other things. There are certain such buzzwords around in the market, and you are almost aware of these things. So, your first step is to plan your career, and to plan your career you need to understand these various forces that are there in the market. Next thing that you need to understand is that how changing a workplace affect job, because you are looking for a job. So you need to know that how these changes that I've just mentioned are affecting the workplace and your job as a result. Employment is more flexible. No lifelong employees. Now you join an organization after your college and you end up in another organization after having gone through many other organizations. There are temporary workers and consultants out there in the market. On a project by project basis, jobs are going. If you conduct a survey that how many of the people intend to hold the same job what they are doing for another 5 years, you will find very surprising results. Very few people are inclined to continue the same job for another 5 years. You will want to switch over. They want to have better jobs. They want to avail themselves of better opportunities. And beside this employment, there is self-employment, which is attractive, and especially people with experience, former workers of the organization, tend to seek self-employment. So, as I just said, that there are numerous factors on the workplace which are changing the whole scenario, and beside there is flexibility, more flexibility on the workplace, and as a result people tend to take job for a short period of time. Beside all this, there are different hiring practices by the employer. Today, employers seek employee who can adapt to new situations, as organization is going through a very rapid change, as we have discussed and we have seen. So they want those employees who can adapt to new changes, new situations, who are unafraid of new change. I mean, the change is the only certainty. This is a fact, that if anything happening, that is change in people, in the organizations. So they are seeking for people who are unafraid to change, who can face challenges, all these challenges of the modern technology very bravely and boldly. So they seek employees who can continue to learn on the job. Today, as you must have gone through in management, organizations are taken as learning organization, because they are not static, they are flexible, they are prone to change. Every time they are ready to take on to any change. So employers seek those who continue to learn on the job, as organizations are learning organizations nowadays. There is benchmarking and many other such words like this for organizations to follow. And above all, they seek those who are sensitive to cultural differences. We have seen communicating interculturally that how this sensitive this issue is. So organizations want those people, those employees who are sensitive, who are understanding to these cultural differences. They know when they interact with other people, they know other people very well. So you see that nowadays the hiring practices of organizations are different from the past. They don't look for people who can stay with them very long. They want people who have these characteristics, these traits and these qualities. So you have seen that organizations are more flexible, and there are numerous changes that have taken place, and you need to understand before you start planning your career, and you have to understand these hiring practices that are around in the market. So after knowing all these things, you have to plan your career. Before starting a product, what do you do? I mean, when you have to market a product, what do? You will certainly say that you would like to know all about the product. Similarly, you are a product and you are going to sell your expertise, your knowledge, your qualifications, your education in the market. So what is to be done? You need to know yourself. The more you know yourself, the better you explain yourself, the better you picture yourself to the prospective employer. So when you come to this phase of planning your career, the most important thing is that you must know the product. And how can you know the product? Yourself. You can do this by setting very realistic objectives. Obviously, when you are going to embark on some new job, or in some cases your first job, it's very important that you must set your realistic objectives. After completing your education, you wouldn't like to expect to be managing a major corporation or having a job with some 100,000 rupees, or decide you won't go for some petty job. So it's very important that you must realize your potential, must understand yourself very well, must be rational in setting your objectives. Setting objective is the first step in planning your career. So how can you do this? You will have to go through a process in setting your objective. The first and the foremost important thing is know your major strength and your weaknesses. A lot of people fail to set their realistic objectives, and the reason being that they do not know what are their major strengths and what are their weaknesses. You must know. I mean, knowing only one part of it is not enough. If you only know that these are your strengths, it's not sufficient. You also should know that what are your weaknesses, because you should have a very realistic knowledge of yourself. Unless you know all this, you are not going to benefit from this whole exercise. So the first thing that can tell you what are your strengths or weaknesses, you have started in a certain process, in a certain way, what you have done at school. Think what education, think what activities you used to do, any prizes, awards, anything. Think, just make a list and then write down. This is very important. Remember that sometime in our life we fail to achieve any objective. The reason for the failure is that we leave certain things incomplete, or we leave certain gaps. So when I'm saying that, you just take it down. You may, or some of you may, make a picture in the mind or think in the mind that they have done this and they have done that. But it's very important that you practically do it on a piece of paper. You take down what you have done at school and then think, are you good with numbers, or you are good getting along with people. This is very important. Some of the people are good with numbers. They can be very good accountants, or they can go for certain job which are official job. We take them into some office. Man, there are people who like to be among the people. They can impress people. They can bring people around to their bent of mind. So think, can you get along with people? So look at your history. I mean, when did you pass your high school, your college, your university? Look for gaps. If there are any gaps in your work history, you need to know. I mean, sometimes you just overlook these things, which turn out to be very important when you are appearing in any interview and you are asked such a question and you feel embarrassed. So it's very important that if there are some gaps in your education, or you are inexperienced, you are already doing some work, and there are gaps in your two employment. So understand this. Think for any experience that you have. Sometimes it happens that a person is overqualified for a job, but for certain reason he or she wants that certain job, but you must know that you are overqualified. Beside that, sometimes you feel that you have very long employment with one company. So if this is the case, you also need to understand this. So think on this issue. And sometime you may have some job termination. You've been doing some job and there was some sort of termination. So think all these things. So the very first steps towards planning your career is to know your major strengths and your weaknesses. And we have just listed all these things which are important for making a separation between strengths and weaknesses. By doing this, you will be able to talk better before the employer in the interview, when you know what are your strengths, and this will help you in writing your resume. You'll be able to present your strength and you'll be able to play down your weaknesses. So the very first steps toward this is knowing your strength and knowing your weaknesses. After that, the next thing to know is to establish some goals. Do you want a long-term employment or a short-term employment? That is your goal, a long-term or a short-term? That's very important. You may have something other in your mind, and for you are presently going for some other job. So picture yourself as a successful person. When you are going for this job or any job, you have your picture in your mind. So try to understand that what are you seeing in this picture, in which position you are seeing yourself. So picture yourself as a successful person. It's very important that you must know that what success you are targeting. After establishing your goal, the next thing is to envision the ideal day at work. I mean, you are planning your career and you are picturing yourself in some certain future. So how do you envision yourself in some certain ideal situation? So talk to people of your envisioned profession. Read about various occupation. Talk to your teacher, talk to your friends. And nowadays it's very easy. You can have access to internet. You can go on to internet. You can know a lot of things about your career of choice. So envision the ideal day at work. How will you be spent from morning to evening? What timings do you prefer? 8 hours or more than that? Do you have the capacity to sit for longer hours? So it's very important. What code of dress do you want to have when you are working? How do you want to go to your work? At what place? So these are very important things. You must envision an ideal day at work. So determine your specific compensation you expect. What compensation do you expect for your expertise, your knowledge, your experience, your skill, and yourself? So beside that, envision size of the company and the location. Obviously, sometime because of the location plays a very important role. If you are living in a small city and you cannot leave home for another country, for another city, so it will certainly pose certain problems. You won't find big organization of your choice in that city. So it's very important that you must determine location, in which location you are ready to work, whether you will be working only within your own city, or you are ready to go to some big city where there are better options. So you must envision the size of the company, size of the organization, and the location. These things will help you in planning your career. Beside that, how can you make yourself more valuable to employer? After going through all these things, you also need to know that how can you make yourself more valuable to employer. And we just discussed that what the employer is seeking from the employee, and we have just listed few things that what they are seeking in the prospective employee. So it's important that you must keep an employment portfolio. I mean, as I just said, you take a piece of paper, rather take a whole copy and write down what do you want. Make a portfolio of your employment. Collect anything that shows your ability to perform. Sometimes it happens that you do not understand that what abilities that you have. I have seen that especially people right from getting out from colleges or universities do not know that how they have to present themselves, how they have to sell their education. They think that they don't have any experience, and they think that in their resumes or their job application, job letters, what will they write under the heading of experience? It's not if you are a fresh candidate, you are going for a new job, it doesn't mean that you must have some previous experience. When we say experience, it means something you might have done at school, at college, or you might have rendered some services to the society. So all these things form your experience, and they will tell the prospective employer that what you are capable of doing. So collect anything that shows your ability to perform. The next thing, you may have some temporary or freelance work that can help you a lot. While at college, school, you can do this, and this can give you an immense help. You can use this as your main skill, your main qualification. And beside that, keep working on polishing and upgrading your skill, whatever they are. So when you are looking for any job, you are planning your career, you need to go through all these things that we've been discussing. You need to make yourself more valuable to the employer, and you have to do all these things. So this is how you can become a good employee and a good applicant, a very powerful applicant when you apply somewhere. The next thing to all these that are very important, and that is to narrow down the field. First, you have to make very realistic objectives, and you have seen that make realistic objectives include all these things that we discussed. So the next thing is to narrow down the field. Which field do you like? This is also very important. You must know the functional areas of business and their activities. So you can go to any jobs in finances, and for that matter, there are investment banks, commercial banks, savings and loans corporation, brokerage houses. So if you are interested in finances, you can go for these areas. If you are interested in accounting, you can go to public account firms or work as controller or financial planners. So when you are narrowing down, you can know that which field suits you more than any other thing. Similarly, you can go into marketing if you are interested. So if you want to go to marketing, you will have to sell consumer product. So you can go to those industries dealing with consumer products, or high technology, or human relations, or personal communication is also another that you can look for. And then you have management information system if you are computer literate. So the next thing after having realistic objective is to narrow down your field. We've been just discussing those fields which concern with your business qualification. If you are qualified in another field, you know your field. So, and you know the functional areas of your field very easily. So you must narrow down the field, that which field do you want to go. Then comes organizing your approach. Organizing your approach to the employment process. You have gone through all these two things. So find out where the job opportunities are. The next thing is to find out where the job opportunities are. Are they in the cities or in certain industrial areas within the country or abroad? You may be foreign qualified. So which industries are strong, which part of the countries are booming. This is very important. Sometimes certain type of industry are found in certain areas, and at another time it happens that there is boom in industry or business in one area of the country compared to the other. So you must know that which industries are strong and which part of the country are booming. This is possible when you keep yourself, or you stay abreast of business and financial news. So to make yourself familiar with all these things, you must read major newspapers. You can have a lot of information of this type in the newspapers. Then you can study trade magazines, both in print and edition. Today it's very easy. You can access to all this information from your desktop. So you can keep yourself abreast of all these things very easily, either through print media or online editions. So if you feel that you need to subscribe to any major newspaper, do it. Scan business pages, watch television, research specific company, make a list of desirable employers, identifying a promising industry. So this is the whole homework that you need to know in this phase, the first phase of planning your career. When you have narrowed down certain organization, learn about them, and you can learn about those company through websites. There are websites, and nowadays almost all the big organization maintain website. So you'll find information about organization's mission, about the product or the services that organization offers, and the annual report. And beside these things, you will know certain employee benefits that the organization offer. So this will help you in determining about that organization, whether you should join it or not. So when you find any job opening, respond to it quickly, cheaply through internet. Send your resume through emails. And when you are sending your resume through email, do not send them as attachment, right? So, and send the focused cover letter to the executive who are hiring them. Beside that, you can know a lot about your career planning from certain career counselors. Even your institutions offer certain on-campus individual counseling facilities. So go to these offices and know about all these things. They will help you in knowing about jobs, about this whole job search communication. They'll help you in making your resume. They'll help you in knowing your weaknesses, knowing your strength. They'll help you how to list your qualifications, your skills, your education, and all about that. So it is also like a skill, and this needs to be learned like any skill. The way you learn other skill, similarly you learn this skill, and this needs this type of homework, and this homework is very important for writing better resume and knowing yourself. Writing better resume means that knowing yourself. So if you know yourself, you are confident of yourself, you can go for a job that you like. You know all those things that we have discussed. So after having gone through all this, the next thing is to analyze your purpose and your audience. Study your purpose and your audience to tailor your messages for maximum effect. So gather all the relevant information and use that information in such a way that it reflects your image to the prospective employer. Establish good relationship by highlighting those skills and qualifications that match each employer. I mean, sometimes you have varied qualifications or skills. So, but a certain employer is seeking a certain type of skill or qualification. So, highlight all those things which are required by the certain employer so that the person understands you. Remember that you have few seconds to present yourself. Don't think that your resume is going to be read from A to Z. You have almost 45 minutes in which you have to 45 minutes mean that your resume will have 45 minutes. You are not the only candidate, especially when you are writing a resume or you are sending your resume a solicited resume, I mean on some certain advertisement. So in that case there are a lot of other people or other competitors, so you don't think that your resume going to find a lot of a job. Remember that when you are preparing your resume, don't think that you are going to get job. There is sometime you just develop this type of a fallacy, and we'll discuss about it. So analyze your purpose, analyze your audience. Who is your audience? Who is your prospective employer? Who is going to read, and tailor your message according to the needs of the prospective employer. After that, you must know the definition of the resume. A resume is a structured written summary of a person's education, employment background, and job qualifications. Resume is in fact a form of advertisement, and the way an advertisement is made or a sales letter is written, similarly a job letter is written or a resume is written. So it means that it is persuasive in nature. The nature of this communication is persuasive. It is intended to stimulate an employer's interest in you. So this is the purpose of your resume. You want to stimulate the employer to action. And what is the action? To give you an opportunity to talk about yourself. So do not include everything in your resume. Your purpose is to create interest, not to tell reader everything about you. This is very important. What you are doing through this resume, or what this resume is going to do for you, it is going to bring you or earn you an opportunity of an interview, a personal interview. So tell the prospective employer that you are the man of his choice. You possess certain qualities fit into his requirement. But do not explain everything or list your skills or abilities, because the purpose of the resume is to kindle employer's interest and generate interview. Don't think that you're going to get the job by writing this resume. In fact, it will get you to the doors. Don't think that your resume is going to be read very carefully. In fact, your resume probably has less than 45 seconds to make an impression. You are competing against a lot of people. So all these things must be in your minds when you are going to prepare your resume. Remember that a good resume is a flexible and can be customized for various situations and employers. I mean, you can tailor your message according to their requirement. So your resume should have at least 7 qualities that an employer seek. You must, when you are writing your resume, you must think that whether it's going to bring some result. So think in terms of result, what result it's going to get. You must know that how to get things done. Are your qualifications well-rounded? Show in your resume that you have signs of progress. You have personal standards of excellence. You are flexible and willing to try new things. You possess strong communication skills. That's the important thing. So your resume must have all these things. That it shows that you can think of in terms of result, or you take those assignments which are result oriented, and you know how to get things done. You are well-rounded. You are a well-rounded personality. Show sign of progress. You write something in your resume that shows that you have signs of progress. You have certain personal standards of excellence. You are flexible and willing to try anything, any new thing. And beside all these things, that is going to take you to the prospective employer, you must show that you have a command. You have a command to communicate. Strong communication skills, that's the most important requirement in any job. So your resume must give all these qualities in your resume, and it should showcase your qualities to the prospective employer. So after going through all these things, we come to the appropriate organizational approach. As we just discussed, that we have to include skills, we have to include qualifications, education, personal details, sometimes references into your resume. So you see that whenever you have to introduce a topic, you can introduce one topic into so many ways. And why one topic is differently introduced is because of your audience. And sometimes even the nature of the topic also forces you to introduce the topic into a different way. Similarly, you choose an organizational plan of the resume because of certain reasons. When you want to focus on your strongest point, you adopt the appropriate organizational approach. Make your resume chronological, functional, or a combination of the two. So you have these three types of organizational approaches. You can present yourself, your expertise, your qualification chronologically, functionally, or with a combination of the two. The right choice depends on your background and on your goals. That what is your background and what goals you are going to achieve. So we begin with the chronological resume. In a chronological resume, the work experience section dominates. Immediately after the name and address and the objective. As we will just see that what are the parts of a resume. Your resume is different from the cover letter. The resume begins with the name, with your address. We'll discuss certain details when we discuss resume practically and look at some examples. When we are talking about chronological resume, the chronological resume begins with your work experience. You develop this section by listing your jobs sequentially in reverse order, beginning with the most recent position and working backwards toward earlier job. I mean, you are doing the job you are doing now and the job you did previously. You start from the present job. So what do you do in this chronological resume? You start from the work experience and you go back sequentially in reverse order, starting from the present to the past, going backward. And under each listing, describe your responsibilities and accomplishment, giving the most space to the most recent positions. If you are just graduating from college, you can vary this chronological approach by putting your educational qualification before your experience. As I said, that never think that you don't have anything of your experience. You have a lot of things to show as your experience. But we'll discuss that in with the job experience, which is better, which approach is better, and for as fresh candidate, which approach is better. But we are talking about chronological approach. So in this approach, you have seen that you begin with the work experience and you are starting from the present to the past. This chronological approach has certain benefits. This at least 3 key benefits. Employees are familiar with it and can easily find information because they read a lot of resumes, so at a glance they can know what are the strong areas of the person, where he is working, at what position the employer is working, and what are his strong or her strong points. So number one, employees are familiar with it and can easily find information. Number two, it highlights growth in career progression. When you go into reverse order from the present, so they can easily know that what are you now and where did you start. So it highlights growth and career progression. It highlights employment continuity and stability. They can very easily know, because you are giving years of each employment, of each position that you held. So this resume can be very helpful in this way. The chronological approach is especially appropriate if you have a strong employment history and are aiming for a job that builds on your current career path. So this is chronological resume. Today we have discussed about job search, communication, or employment. We have seen that it's not very simple just to write an application, as I said we used to write. It's a process. We start from career planning, we write resume, we write cover letter, we make ourselves acquainted with the interview process, understanding interview, participating in the interview, and then follow-up letter, and so a lot of things are yet to be seen. We have today just discussed that how you can make your realistic objective, how you can narrow down your field, and certain other issues. And we've just touched the topic of resumes approach, and we've seen that there are three types of approaches. One is chronological, other is functional, and the third one is a combination of the two. We have gone through with the functional, and you've seen that in functional you start with the work experience. So it's good for a certain reason, because employer find it easy. They can know about your present and about your past and about your continuity of the service and stability in a certain service. We'll go through the next part in the next lecture. So today we are through with the time, and we finish our lecture here. In next lecture we will study other aspects of this topic, and we'll know that how we can write better resume, cover letter, and how we can prepare yourself for interview or participate in the interview and write follow-up letter and job acceptance letters. So until then, Khuda Hafiz.